Okay, let's try one more of these trig equations. So we're looking at another problem here. It looks similar to the first one that we started with, but this time the similar equation would be 5x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. So this one's a little bit different because we've got the 5 out front. So basically we're looking for combinations of 5 and 2 that'll give us 1 in the middle, and there are no factors of 5 and 2 that are going to give us a 1 in the middle. In general, if you look at one like this and it doesn't look easy to factor, even if it might factor, if it doesn't look easy to factor, rather than battling that to see if it even does factor, it may just be easier to go straight to the graphing calculator. Okay, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so I've put mine into Desmos because that's what I have on my tablet. It would look very similar on the TI as long as you make sure you're going from 0 to 2 pi or 0 to 6.28, because those are the only solutions that you want. And then the difference on the TI is you're going to have to use the calculate menu and find the zeros, and that's where you're going to do the left bound, right bound thing to find each one. So it takes a little while on the graphing calculator, but you can get there. So on Desmos, it's great because you can just tap it. And so we see the first, remember we're looking for zeros here. Okay, we're looking for this is equal to 0, those are our x-intercepts. So our first one is 0.571, second one is 2.571, third one is 3.975, and the fourth one is 5.45. Okay, so we see we've got 4 x-intercepts between 0 and 2 pi. And so we've got 4 solutions for this on 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so coming back over to our equation, we would just go ahead and list those zeros that we found on the calculator or the graphing app. So you would go ahead and list them all out, preferably in order, like that. And let me write out the directions for the TI, just in case you're not sure on that. So on the TI, you're going to put, let me change colors here. Let's go to red. Okay, you're going to put this in as your function. So you're going to hit graph, and you're going to put in y equals, and then you're going to punch in that function, sine squared x plus sine x minus 2. Actually, let me point out, when you put in sine squared x, remember that you actually have to put in, let me write that out the way that you're actually going to have to put it in, because you're going to have to put it in as like this, sine x squared in the calculator. Okay, remember you can't, it's got to be on the outside in the calculator, so make sure that that square goes all the way on the outside, not on the x. So you're going to put that in as your graph, and then you're going to do the shift key to get the calculate menu. That's over one of the buttons, and then you're going to choose zeros. And for each one, you're going to do left bound, right bounds. So it's going to say left, right, and guess. And then when you finally get to where it says zeros equals, that's when you have your zero. So you're going to have to do that 4 times to find these values. All right, but if it's one like this that doesn't factor, it's either that, okay, so it's either that on the graphing calculator, or you've got to use the quadratic formula. Instead of x equals, and then the quadratic formula, you'd have sine theta equals, whoops, I didn't want to do that, negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So you'd have to get that into a decimal, and then you'd have to do sine inverse of all of that. Okay, so that's your other option using the quadratic formula. Okay, so the graphing calculator or the quadratic formula. Those are your 2 options for one that's not going to factor.